So let's welcome Andrew from Tecmie. Yeah, a round of applause to him.
Okay, thank you. Um, Hi everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Miracle. I work with Tecmie as head of research and products. Tecmie is a venture studio targeting emerging markets, and so we build and experiment with emerging ideas like AI, IoT, blockchain, etc. And we essentially explore the venture studio model where we work with founders. Initially, we started out as a consultancy and then refined into the venture studio model, given the latest advancements in tech. Now, the topic I had prepared for this session was AI-driven leadership. Because we experiment with like machine learning and AI, there are a lot of things we've learned over time. I had tried to create some demo to explore that idea, using a relatable incident. Because one of the things about AI-driven leadership is that it allows leaders to extend their context window. When I started out in engineering management, I used to do one-on-ones with each of my engineers, so you could have like um, 5 to 6 engineers in your team. You do one-on-ones, and then you review PR work, etc. Across various organizations, usually the same. But with AI, leaders can extend context window into like 100 people. That's above the number limit given. And I wanted to simulate an incident, like the LFI incident where you were a governor and you have emergency respondents and you have everybody report only to one person. Um, because of time and the nature of this conversation, I've pivoted to pretty much just share an overview of Tecmie and give a primer on how you can approach AI leadership or how we approach that from our own product perspective, building with startups. Startup lessons are different. Startup journey is are different. I started my own early startup journey quite some time. I come from a technical background. Actually, it's funny. It's fascinating because my first job in tech was because a private contractor at a radio station liked this receptionist and fired the IT guy. And so it was that powerful that even though he got reprimanded, they couldn't hire the IT guy back again. So they needed the most competent hand at that point. It was no longer a thing of someone I liked. It was like, who is the most competent person that can execute this project right now because it's starting tomorrow? So a friend of mine introduced me to management. I demoed something. I hadn't even finished school yet, and they're like, "You're hired. You start next week." Again, I was like, "I'm not even done with school." And they're like, "Yeah, just started." And that was my first job in tech. It was a radio station, you know, traffic systems, a lot of IT networking. But at the time also, I thought my career was going to be in music because, I like music. I like the drums, the guitar, production. I used to experiment with the sounds. Afrobeats wasn't, and this was way back in 2013, so Afrobeats wasn't really popular. But I had to ask myself at some point, if I was going to pursue music as a career, I either have to become a singer, which I am terrible at, but I was really good at the operations because when people have me backstage at the concerts, there's like this confidence that the main artist is showing. Like before you go up stage or before you go up stage or live, it's like, where's Andrew, where's Andrew? So I was really good at prepping teams. I was really good at managing like lighting, effects, sound, preparations, compilations. I was really, really good at that. But I looked at the career because I'm more introverted. I'm like, you know what? Let me do tech. I already have an IT job. I can upskill. I can pick up new learnings as I go. And prior to that, my experimentation with IT was pretty much just hacking my way around everything. Like, figure it out, go to a forum, figure it out, script it, it works, boom, move. And so at that point, I took a pause in my career to properly learn programming. And I enrolled in Moringa School here in Kenya. I did the Moringa School program, learned really well the basis of programming. And after that, I got hired into a YC-backed startup in Lagos, Nigeria that was working in logistics. And that was my first startup experience. So my career has started from this uncertainty where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do tech or music, and eventually I'm doing tech, and then I'm now working at a startup. And that style of experience changed a lot of things for me. I was like exposed to the magnitude of what startup life is like, how things move super fast. And I wanted more. So there was this program, it's called MEST, it's the Meltwater Entrepreneurial School of Technology. Every year, about 12 to 18,000 people across the continent apply for 50 slots in the MEST program. In 2019, I was one of the 54 that were accepted in MEST. It's this scholarship program where they teach you tech, business, and communications. So prior to MEST, I was this coder, this programmer, this software engineer. I can't sit in front of people like this. I knew nothing about stakeholder management or business, but after the MEST program, I learned communication, I learned business, the methodologies that are used, and luckily enough, I and three other guys founded a company that was doing project analytics for impact organizations, and we got funded. And voila, my first VC fund journey begins. So now, I've been funded for a startup, and we are building stuff, but 18 months down the line, that startup fails. It was full boys, and I learned the importance of gender diversity by experience. because because decisions take so much time. It was a struggle, and as they say, co-founder conflicts is one of the greatest killers of startups, and the reasons can vary. But when our startup struggled, and decisions took time, my own takeaway was like, if we were just a bit fewer or had a more diverse team, maybe we could have survived. Because the business idea was great, the market timing was great, we just couldn't get to work together. And so, after the startup died, I decided, what am I going to do with my life? So I wrote down a checklist of everything, yes. And so, after learning gender balance, I decided, you know what, I'm really good at products, I'm really good at experimenting. So I want to build something where the limit to what we build is infinite, like just keep building. And the venture studio was one of the most interesting models because I had come from a background where I used to run consultancy and work with clients, and this was like perfect. But now it was leveraging on the experience I've gained after a while, after working in a startup, after excelling in a technical background, and then eventually also going through the mass program. And so, luckily enough, there was an investment committee willing to fund us for the venture studio. And at the time, one of the startups that earlier contributed to, the founder had called me and like, hey Andrew, we just got acquired. And he's like, you're not rich yet, but we'll send you some papers to sign, so some money, it's good. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, okay, good. There's money. So let's build this venture studio. And next thing you know, we start hiring. At some point, I built a company that was like 16 people, and things were going well until we started getting so big, and I started seeing our initial culture drop. And when I wanted to do the venture studio, I reached out to a childhood friend and told him, come and lead engineering so that we can I can like focus on all these other things I've learned in business. And there are so many good parts to it. You're like working with your friend, but I also learned a very, very critical dilemma between friendship and business. And so, the reason I say this is, I don't know everybody's startup journey is different. Mine hasn't been straightforward, and I know, like it's across board. It's pretty much the same thing, but there are lessons I learned across the way. Each person's lessons are different, but some mistakes made, we figured it out. At some point, one of our biggest projects was going to be used in the Nigerian elections, like the Nigerian presidential elections. And that was huge because it gave me an insight into the magnitude of the technology we built. Because I've done a VC funded startup that did project analytics at scale. It was just perfect to get into this segue. But the consultancy model was struggling and fighting with the venture studio model. And so eventually we had to make a decision. Are we going to be a venture studio, which isn't making money, but we are building products and we're experimenting with the market and learning firsthand what it is. Over the period, we built about 10 different products targeting different niches and just learning. Like we just had the money to build and learn until money was running and cash flow was negative. And that was when I realized, oh, you get money, you get someone in finance to help you structure things, because I had no freaking idea about finance. And so one of our products went viral. It was a Bible AI app. It started out as a tweet. It's like, hey, what is this scripture Bible something? People are like, yeah, sure. And because we can built it within 12 hours and just released the demo right there. And people were like, boom, and Twitter just went crazy. And then next thing, there were TikToks, there were YouTube videos of this, and it was like, I was just looking at it. Because, I had never done anything consumer. We were always doing B2B, especially if we do consultancy, so enterprise B2B is kind of like our thing. So for the first time, we learned about consumer markets. We learned about this whole thing. Okay, this is how things grow. This is how virality happens at the consumer level. But there was also a problem with that. You see, we had a viral app, but we weren't making any money. And it was 2 years ago when AI compute was so expensive that we were losing. But we were happy that we had something that was gaining distribution on its own, but we didn't figure out how to generate revenue from that. So a bigger Bible AI company called, we like your product, we like the traffic, we want to purchase the domain name and everything. And it's like, okay, sure. So after 3 years, we had timed the market and failed to execute. We didn't learn how to time the market and execute on time. And so in 2025 of our journey, we are like, now we can time the market, now we can execute, so how do we turn it into a revenue flywheel? So pretty much, our Tecmie journey so far. And, during this process, everything that has happened was me trying to figure out just how to scale the company without growing so much and losing that culture. Because, now we are a very small, tight-knit team, and we build fast, extremely fast with a lot of things. We build so many things so well. That culture, I want it to remain. But there are other things that we are not good at, and when I think about it, I am the most valuable employee in my company, so it is my responsibility to replace me consistently. And the way I go about it is pretty much like learning first before delegating. Like for instance, there was a time we wanted to hire someone to do BD and sales for us, so that we can get our consultancy pipeline working. And they'll ask me this question: who's your ICP? Where are they? Where are they from? Where do we find them? And I would answer the questions with things I thought were the answer, and then we'll spend money and targeting those ICP with the messaging, and everything will just go downhill because we didn't know who the right customer was for the product, and we just spend money, and CTR rates are messy, below 10%, sometimes even 1%. So now the way I approach it is pretty much trying to figure out things that I don't know first before actually either hiring either an agency to do it or getting someone to own that role. For example, right now, let's say for example, if we were to start up a consultancy, etc., and we're targeting startup founders, I'll just pretty much go to Twitter Find every VC on Twitter, micro VCs maybe with like lower than 2,000 followers, 5,000 followers. Find every tweet that founders have engaged with that's done maybe about 1 million views, and scrape every single person that have liked, commented on those tweets. I'm going to scrape all those individuals and push them through a cold outreach pipeline. And when anybody responds and goes through a sales pipeline of like 1, 2, 3, 4, responding to a message in the words, we take those messaging, push it into a machine learning algorithm that can then find lookalike audience for these people on ads platforms. So when I meet an agency and say, we want to run ads for this, they're like, what's the ICP? And I'm like, this is our eval. We've scraped about 100,000 users across content we think our users resonate with. Maybe those contents were targeting problems that the product solve across Twitter, Reddit, LinkedIn, Facebook. And then out of these 100,000, we have about 5,000 who have responded to us positively with a certain message. Can you take this 5,000 and now just multiply it? And so now that is how we do delegation. That is how I do delegation. Essentially figure it out first to just a bit and then outsource or delegate it. And eventually you just have this delegation process. And the beauty of it is because I'm a technical founder, some of these processes I now delegate into AI systems, AI agents, because they're now getting easier to build. For example, when I think about it, it's like, I feel like right now, or within the next 2 years, we are going to enter this phase where job descriptions are going to change from just titles to objectives. We're no longer going to hire content writer, SEO manager, social media manager, digital marketer. No, we're going to hire objective-based roles. Keep the customer happy, deliver products and iterate fast, and reach new audiences. Maybe it won't catch up now, but give it 3 to 5 years. Roles will no longer be based on chief this, that, etc. We'll first of all see an evolution of it in the role descriptions, and then eventually title descriptions will catch up. And so that is how we would eventually have, small, tight-knit companies that are AI-driven. So because when I say AI-driven leadership is essentially, if you have an objective, can you push your objective down the street where the execution of that objective is as you imagine? And so eventually you would have people who just own core objectives. And that's why I think that ex-founders, founders, entrepreneurs are going to be the rarest breed. Like when I think about it, if you're an entrepreneur, you start out with like this wonderful idea and you try to figure it out. And in figuring it out, you wear multiple hats on your head. You wear this hat, finance hat, this hat, etc., etc. Eventually, it's like, oh, I'm wearing multiple hats, yes. If your startup succeeds, your exit is great. If your startup fails and somehow, you are feeling demoralized, I'll tell you, don't feel demoralized. Because 2 years from now, ex-founders would be the ones that would be the rare breeds. Ex-founders would be the people being hired as operators of objectives. So, because this is a founders, investor, and I'm saying this because, a lot of the time we entrepreneurs are like, what if I took the career route, right? What if I did the 9 to 5, climb up the career ladder, but I'm just doing this entrepreneurship and like building, and it's taking so much from me, and it's not 9 to 5 because it's like 24 hours. But I'm just telling you, maybe there's a glimmer of hope, maybe not so far, maybe in the near distant future, that you as an entrepreneur would become the rarest breed on earth. You'll be the most valuable sort of that skill. Because now, everybody who wants to build that $1 billion startup only needs such operators. Someone who has owned marketing from the beginning to the end in their startup. Someone who has owned tech from design to the end. Someone who has owned design from research to delivery. Someone who has owned finance from tax, compliance, and planning. And that's how you have this 5% $billion company that everyone is obsessing about. But in retrospect, what I just want to say is that, in summary, ex-founders would be the next new breed. And our startup journey has not been straightforward, but I believe, like each and every one of us, our own startup journey is also unique. It has the ups, it has the downs, but there is always light. Sometimes it feels like we don't know what we're doing, but I am very certain that there is always light somehow, somewhere. So at Tecmie, what we do, we work with founders to help you build fast. Really, really fast, because internally we have done that for ourselves, and then we believe we can do it for anybody. So if you're interested in building with us and you are happy that we would open source your project, we'll build for free. So because right now, code is no longer the most valuable asset, distribution is. And so your code can be open source. If you're fine with it, we're happy to work with you for free. If we also like the idea, because we ourselves have spent time just building and dumping projects, building and dumping projects, building and dumping projects to know what the African consumers really, really want. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. I think the microphone is going to Snail. Is going to be somehow hosting us. And I'm very, really excited, personally, very excited for the session coming up.
Okay, I'm going to invite Onyeka to come up join me here. Okay, so nice to see you all again. I spoke a little bit earlier, just introduced myself. Can I use this picture? So Sunil Sharma, I live in Toronto, Canada. I've been investing for the last 9 or 10 years. Some of it my own money, some of it through some funds that I've been part of. The last 6 years was through Techstars, which is